Well, welcome, folks. It is 12 o'clock noon on a Monday here on the eastern part of the United States, which usually means that I'd be welcoming you all to this week's edition of Tech Sales Advice. However, this is not Tech Sales Advice. This is the official launch of the 6 Habits certification for pre-sales professionals. Now, these are live conversations, like always. And usually when I'm introducing Tech Sales Advice, I like to say that these conversations are unscripted, unrehearsed, and unpredictable. This one is maybe a little bit more rehearsed and a little not quite scripted, but I have a feeling it might also be unpredictable.
It'll be unpredictable for sure. Yeah.
Indeed. Allow me to introduce the gentleman who just spoke up. You can see on the screen that his name is Bill Balmave. If you're not familiar with Bill, he published a book a number of months ago, about a year ago now, called Tech Sales Wasabi. If you have never read, if you haven't purchased or read Tech Sales Wasabi, I couldn't recommend it highly enough. It is a book for pre-sales leaders, particularly those individuals who have made the jump from pre-sales, from the individual contributor role into management. Bill and I met about 2.5 or 3 years ago. In fact, Bill, do you care to share the story that you shared with me, that somebody mentioned something to you about this book and you're like, come on, I've been doing this for decades. What am I going to learn?
When I joined Pyramid Analytics, the outgoing, which was funny because I got hired by the RVP of sales, or the VP of sales, who at the time didn't tell me, but on my first day is like, oh yeah, I've only got 2 weeks left. I quit already. Oh, and by the way, here's a book that I gave all the SEs that I told them to read, that it would be, and I looked at this thing and I'm like, 6 Habits of High. I'm like, come on, man. Like, this has got to be just the cheesiest thing in the world. I already know all this stuff. And a couple months later, I was looking for some inspiration. And, I've read a lot of other books, John Kerr's book and Peter Cohen's book and things like that. And I'm like, I need something new. And I'm like, I'm going to give this 6 Habits thing a try. And I got to say, like, Chris, the conversational nature, the stories, it was very relatable. And it did exactly what I wanted it to do, which was inspire me. And I thought, you know what? Like, I wonder how many times somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, thanks for writing the book. And since I hadn't paid for it, since it was going to be, I'm like, hey, you know what? I at least got to say thank you to you. And so I did. And you were kind enough to respond back. I'm like, oh, this guy's an author. He's never going to respond back. Whatever. I just wanted to let him know. And you did. And yeah, you had me on Tech Sales Advice a couple of months later. And I was so happy to have the opportunity to then have you run workshops for Pyramid, which ended up being absolutely fantastic, really galvanized the team, everybody very excited about it. So yeah, this is how, and then, the rest from there is history.
Yeah. And so Bill has been working with Tech Sales Advisors for a little over a year, and he has really been the engine and the brain power and the muscle behind building a 6 Habits certification program. And by the way, our good friend Andy Ryan says hello. Andy, good to see you as well, my friend. Good to see your name. By the way, folks, if anybody's out there, if you care to say hello, please feel free to do so. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to do so. What we're going to do today is we're going to tell you a little bit about the background on this 6 Habits certification program, the why behind what we've built. We're going to talk a little bit about the process that we've been through. We believe that this has been well vetted and validated. And another comment from, I hope I'm saying it right. Is it Cajun Parks? I hope I'm saying that right. We hope it's game changing. Cajun, thank you for sharing. Sanu, I cannot, not say hello to Sanu. And Sanu, we're going to mention your name in a moment. Melanie Flores says hello. Folks, thank you so much. I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to keep up with all the comments, but we're going to talk about the why. We're going to talk about the how and the process. We're going to talk about the what, and then we're going to, for those people who might be interested in signing up and registering for the certification, there's a couple different options. We'll talk about that. So, and we're really, really excited to roll this out and see what this might mean to the community and to our profession. So with that, I wanted to take, and Bill, you and I were talking about this. I thought it might make sense to just to talk a little bit about sort of the creation of the 6 habits to begin with. And so folks, for those of you who don't know my story, I graduated from university in the early 90s, and I was an IT professional for about 15 years. I got into software engineering. I worked for Freddie Mac, and then I took my first job as a pre-sales professional, again, about 15 minutes into my career. And honestly, I thought I was going to be brilliant because I could move a mouse and talk at the same time. Like I thought all there was to this profession was be smart and be good in front of an audience. I had no idea what it meant to be in sales. By the way, a few just quick shout outs: Rich and Chris Hickey, Joe from Genetech. Good to see you, Joe. Thanks for joining in, folks. In any event, so when I first entered this profession, I made lots of mistakes, and I honestly didn't really know what it meant to be in sales. And I slowly started to figure things out and became the number 1 SE in my particular line of business. I hit, back in the day when we did President's Clubs, I hit President's Clubs in, 4 or 5 years running, and then moved into management. And I inherited a team of SEs and discovered that they were making many of the same mistakes that I had made when I first got into the profession. And at the time, this was in 2010, there wasn't a lot of training out there. There was a few books, but I created some training for my team. Well, fast forward about 8 or 9 years, I at some point, I actually became an account executive, decided I wanted to quote the big bucks, got into enablement. And along the journey, I had given this training for a number of people. And I'd had a number of people over that journey say, Chris, have you ever thought about writing a book? Like, you've got some decent stuff here. I wrote the book and published the book in June of 2019. So it's been 4.5 years, which is unbelievable to me.
Amazing. Congratulations, by the way.
Not having any idea whether or not it would succeed. I had, by the way, and Bill, you know the story. I hired a publishing coach, and I told him, like, whether this book sells or not, it's just satisfying for me to get this all these things that are in my head sort of organized and on paper. Well, I got a call from a gentleman named Steve Bullington. In fact, he reached out to me on LinkedIn. Steve runs the onboarding program for Salesforce, and said, Chris, I discovered your book, love your book. It's going to become required reading as part of our platform or part of our onboarding program. And by the way, can I place a bulk order with you? It was at that point where I realized maybe I'd done something pretty meaningful. And not long after that, I launched at the time I was calling it Demo Doctor. The business was Demo Doctor. I launched in March of 2020, thought I'd made the biggest mistake of my life, and managed to survive 2020, and things really took off in 2021. Similar to the feedback that I got when I published the book, the feedback that I have continued to get delivering the 6 Habits workshops as I have has been just incredible. And so, and along that journey, and Bill, you were a customer before you were a partner. Your feedback to me was you loved the program, but I think you also recognized an opportunity to create a certification based on the 6 Habits. And here we are. But by the way, I just got to say hello to Ron Whitson. Move a mouse and talk at the same time. That was me. Florian, looking forward to it. Likewise. So, Bill, you, and I have to give you a lot of credit. You were the first one who really convinced me that this profession was in such a dire need for a certification, particularly one that verified and validated what some people call the soft skills or the professional skills. And you were incredibly passionate about it. Do you mind just taking a minute and sort of sharing that, that background and the context from which you were coming when really you were selling me on the idea?
Well, look, so first of all, Chris, I think when I look at a lot of the pre-sales training that I've either gone through or even delivered myself, man, a lot of it is focused on how do you demo? What's a better way to demo? What are your demo techniques? Like everything was demo, demo, demo. And you know, as you know, as everybody that's listening knows, there's a lot more to being an SE than doing a demo. And as a manager hiring, right? I always thought about kind of three buckets or three things, three pillars, this to whatever you want to call it, that I would look at in a person. First of all, it would be, you know, how much do they know about the industry that we're selling into? What experience do they have? Like how much credibility can they get? All that kind of stuff. Two, how much do they know about my product, the technology, etc. And then third, what's their sales acumen? What's their soft skills? What's the, you know, that stuff? And that to me was always the hardest thing to interview for. It was always the hardest thing for me to quantify. It was always the hardest thing for me to coach. A lot of it was, you know, I would interview when I was first promoted to manager. I would interview by gut feel, and that didn't work out so well. And I would hurl it. And then you know, for a while I was using this methodology called top grading, and I was doing these 4-hour interviews, and they were a grind. But you know, like, at least I felt like I got to know the person better. And all along it was always like, well, I wish there was some standardized framework that I could use on which to judge and understand, you know, an SE's soft skills, sales acumen, like arguably the most important part of being an SE. When I read your book, that was kind of the way that I looked at it. To me, it was not like, how do I get to a good demo? It was, here are 6 things that I should be doing as an SE all the time. I'm like, here's a framework. This is awesome. And now I have a definition of good that I can use. I can measure people on it and all of that. And so then kind of taking it further. And I think the thing that inspired the certification part of it is I went through IDLE certification back 20 some years ago, right? I worked at Mercury. We supported IT and IT ops and all that. And I remember going through this certification. I remember it being like a very big deal. And we went through training, and it was like, hey, you could take the test once. And it gave weight to this then certification that I got. And I don't know, just putting it all together, I'm like, wouldn't it be great as a hiring manager if I could look at somebody and I can see all their experience and all of that, but rather than having to spend 4 hours with them to figure out how good their soft skills and their sales acumen are, I had some governing body, somebody that said, hey, this person gets how to be an SE, the sales part of being an SE. That's what, to me, 6 Habits encapsulates that better than anything else that I've seen. And I'm like, and to your point, people like it. It has a huge impact. I saw what it did to my team at Pyramid. I'm like, I think this is the thing that we can bring to the SE community, to the SE profession, that helps SEs, it helps managers. It even helps, like, look, sales folks and all that. Anybody who looks at it, you know, I want somebody to be able to look at an SE, and if you're 6 Habits certified, like, people will know you get it. I know how to partner with sales. I know how to get with a customer and figure out what they need. I know how to translate that into telling them about the solution, right? I know how to deliver it when the time comes, and I know how to keep making that better and better. Like, that's it. Like, to be able to have that and certify people on it, I think. So that long-winded way, like, that was it. That was, to me, that was like, we got to do something. Here now is the opportunity to do something about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think you just summarized the 6 Habits in about 30 seconds, which is fabulous. By the way, Josh Shiri from Indiana, nice to see you. Gabriel, thank you for your comment there. You know, Bill, as you were sharing and reflecting on that, one of the things that I was just reminded of is I've actually had a number of people reach out to me on both the hiring manager side and the individual maybe who was going in for an interview. And I've had people say to me, well, during the interview, I mentioned your book, and I brought up the fact that I had read your book. Or I've had managers come to me and say, during the interview, either I've had people mention that or I've told them that they should read the book. And so I think you're right. What this does is the certificate, by getting the certification, here's the idea, folks. is that it establishes a baseline fundamental understanding of the core professional skills, soft skills, however you want to, that are the most hard to quote demonstrate and the most difficult as a hiring manager to quote test for or validate. And that's really what we're trying to create here. So Bill, do you care to take a half a step back and just talk a little bit about the process? This is a process that really began about a year ago. So this is, folks, this is not something that was just created overnight. Bill has really been spearheading this effort for about 12 months. Do you care to talk a little bit about the process?
Yeah, so absolutely, Chris. So look, I think when you and I first started talking about this, one of the things that we wanted to make sure of is that we didn't create this in a vacuum. Like this wasn't just you and I and some great idea that, that we had, and hey, we're going to waste a bunch of money because we're going to certify all these people. To me, I wanted this to have meaning. I wanted it to have weight. And I think, both between the two of us, we've got some great SE leadership in our network. And it's like, let's go ask them and get them involved in doing it. And we did. And we got some great folks, great companies. And so, we started talking about what does it look like? What would we do? What would it mean? There was a lot of discussion about like, hey, there's a lot more to being an SE than just this stuff. And so what about the technical side and all of that? And we got some great input. And so I think it's fair to say that what we've come up with was by no means just some brainstorm of you and I. Like there was definitely input from a lot of folks, not just at that time, kind of a year ago, but between then when we started talking about it and now for sure.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, and I'll share just a quick slide with some logos. So we got input and contribution from SE leaders at varying levels from all the organizations, folks, that you see listed here. So, and again, I give Bill a great deal of credit. He really spearheaded these conversations. And in fact, we've also run a pilot. By the way, there was a question on LinkedIn. I missed the beginning. Are you saying you want to introduce a certification of the 6 habits? So to the individual who asked the question, thank you very much for asking. We are officially launching a 6 habits certification program as of today. It's available on our website, and we'll talk a little before we wrap things up here. We'll talk about how you can gain access to it. But yes, there's a 6 habits certification that has been launched based on the 6 habits framework that of course was written about in the 6 habits of highly effective sales engineers book. So we talked a little bit about the background, and again, the first few meetings that we had, and I think we had at least a half a dozen meetings with leaders from each of these organizations. It really began with, is there even a need for this? Is this even something we should be even thinking about? Right. Yeah. And what's the value? And without any hesitation in the least, the feedback was unanimous. There's a significant need in the market for this. And a number of the folks that we spoke with, I remember one individual in particular who is one of our clients. They've actually been through a workshop. She said, Chris, the 6 habits is a verification and validation of soft skills. And that is the most difficult thing for me as a manager to validate and look for. So we've talked a little bit about the why. We've talked about the process. Bill, do you mind touching? And we've actually got a couple of quote special guests. So we've actually run a pilot over the past 2 or 3 weeks. We've been running a pilot to get some feedback from some individuals. And 2 of the individuals who went through that pilot have actually agreed to join us and share some of their experience. And we're going to invite them onto the stage here in just a minute. Before we get there, Bill, do you mind taking just a minute and talking through the what? Because we've created a study guide and we've created an exam, and there's different types of questions. Can you talk just because folks, if I may, before Bill answers, here's the challenge, right? Is we want to test that in an exam that is tough enough to really verify and validate a foundational set of knowledge and understanding. It can't be too hard. It can't be too easy, right? So we've spent a lot of time putting this together. Do you care to elaborate further, Bill?
Yeah, and so Chris, to me, the inspiration, and I'll go back to the IDLE framework and the IDLE certification, right? And this certification that we're talking about now, this is kind of the first of 4 levels. And when you do an IDLE certification, it's called the foundation, and it's basically like, look, do you know IDLE? Can you spell it? What are the components of it? Do you have knowledge of it? Right? It's the beginning of the wisdom, so to speak. And then there are other certifications that have to do with, do you know now how to implement what you know? And then do you know how to manage to it, right? And then do you know how to teach other people how to do it? So same idea, right? This first certification, and we're calling it the foundation certification. And it is, do you have knowledge of the 6 habits? Do you know what they are, the techniques associated, the ideology, the principles, all of that? We're not necessarily testing like, are you putting them into practice now? It's, do you know them? Do you understand them, right? The next level of certification, assuming everything goes well with this, the next level of certification that we'll look at is what we're calling practitioner. And this will be about, all right, now that you understand the 6 habits, are you implementing them? Can you prove that you're doing them, and to a certain degree, and all of that? And this will be kind of a much larger, broader certification. The third level will be what we're calling 6 habits coach, which is not necessarily for a manager, but can you help others in their journey to improving in the 6 habits? And then finally, we'll have the 6 habits instructor, which is basically, can you be Chris White, or can you be Bill Ballnick? Can you talk to folks? Can you instruct and
certified?
Yeah.
If I may, certified to deliver a 6 habits or facilitate a 6 habits workshop.
A workshop and certify other folks and all of that, right? So it's not just about it's not just about you and I. So with this first certification, it's I'll say, like, wanted to create an exam that was not too easy, not too difficult. I'll apologize to the early pilot participants, because I think I over-rotated on the too difficult side, and there was like 180 questions, and I wanted you to do it in 60 minutes and all this. And in working with these folks, who were fantastic, by the way, and I can't wait to congratulate all of them. I feel like we have really kind of now whittled it down and focused it where it needs to be. It's shorter, it's much more succinct and to the point. And everybody that's kind of gone through the pilot now, and you'll hear from our special guests, they feel like, this is a fair assessment of my knowledge of the 6 habits and me knowing it.
Yep. But by the way, Rich said, please keep these financially attainable. Rich, I can assure you, we feel, Bill said over rotating. I think we may be rotating towards keeping it economic for everyone. So we are going to bring our 2 guests in just a moment. Before we do so, here's the list of people that have already completed the pilot program and earned their 6 habits certification. So we saw Sanu earlier on he chimed in. Sanu, congratulations. Everyone, Henna, Andy, Art, Dan, Kevin, Matt, James, Anthony, Nick, Mikhail, Tara, Sanu, Roman, congratulations. Thank you for being a part of the pilot. We had, I think, a total of 30 or maybe 35 people sign up. So I think there's
going to be going through it.
There are going to be a number of people. Without further ado, though, there are 2 people.
I did want to. There were a couple special mentions that I wanted to
make,
Chris.
Please.
So going back to that list, and you don't have to bring the slide up or anything. I wanted to call it Henna class, because Henna actually went through and screenshot every question and had notes, and we had a very long discussion about all of it. And I have to say, like, I really appreciate everything she did there. She was actually the impetus for a lot of what went into the study guide. So she really kind of helped change my thinking about that. And then I also wanted to do a shout out to Tara Wastart, because Tara scored the highest of everybody that's taken it so far. And she had a workshop. She did the workshop 2 years ago, but she told me she was pregnant at the time. She's like, man, it was sketchy on what I remembered, but I read Chris's book over the weekend and then I took the exam and look at that, lo and behold. So yeah, just goes to show you that the exam is true to the knowledge. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
but huge thanks to everybody for
yeah. By the way, Joseph had to drop off. Joseph circle back with us. Rich mentioned how great would it be to have a dedicated form of certified SEs. So that's part of what's in plan.
It's everything, Rich. Totally agree.
Particularly so once you become so level 1 is 6 Habits Certified Foundation. Level 2 is 6 Habits Certified Practitioner. Once you become a 6 Habits Certified Practitioner, there will be a monthly group meeting for anybody and everybody who's involved in that to come and collaborate. And that's really the whole idea. And our good friend Carrie, huge congrats. Thank you, sir. We do feel like this is a pretty big milestone. All right. We've kept our guests waiting long enough. Kevin Kratzer and James Exley, welcome, guys. Really, really pleased to have you. There's a little bit of, do you hear a little bit of background static, Bill? Or maybe it's just on my side. Okay, then we'll just assume that it's just on my side. Bill, I'm going to turn it over to you to welcome our two guests and lob them a few questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Russ. So guys, first of all, thanks for going through this. I really appreciate it. I also want to thank both of you. You were both very honest in your feedback, and that's good. And Kevin, I'm going to start with you. And so we chose you guys one because Kevin's got kind of the SE view. James has more of the SE leader view, and I wanted to make sure. I think both are really important, and I think that the certification has value for both folks. So. Kevin, let me just ask you kind of straight up, like you went through a workshop a couple of years ago, I know, and actually a follow-up one. And I know that at Pyramid, you guys have tried to implement this as well as you could. When you took the exam, do you feel like it was a fairly fair test of your knowledge of the 6 habits?
Yes, I do think it was. And the reason why is because it forces you to think about the soft skills. Okay. It's not something you can go into here and have that technical mindset on anymore. And that's been the whole thing from a certification standpoint of anything. When you're an SE in any industry, it's technical based. It's not soft skills. And for the longest time in my career, I said I could teach anybody technology, but you have to find those individuals with the soft skills that can be SEs. And that's what I always, that's how I set myself apart.
Yeah, no, that's good. And how did you? It's funny. Like I'm not sure what to ask you. How did you feel after you took it? Like in taking it, do you feel like, look, I accomplished something, and this is kind of something worth representing or talking about?
Yeah, I did. I'm trying to put in the best words I possibly can here, because I'll tell you, I am, not that you would guess, I am a pretty competitive person in my nature. So when I finished it, not only was I proud about how well I did on it, but it was surprised. It kind of surprised me a little bit that, okay, I did take this stuff in and I do know it. So yeah, I am going to be proud to post this up, because I want people to realize that, SEs aren't just about the technical side. They need to have those soft skills as well.
No, I appreciate it. And look, in full disclosure for the audience, like Kevin was kind enough to tell me that, hey, Bill, you've over-rotated too far on the difficulty side, because you gave me 125 questions and 60 minutes to finish it. And I don't think I'd finished reading question 100 by the time 60 minutes was up. Like, it just wasn't. And I'm like, oh my God. So, look, when you put the exam together and you go through it yourself, you're like, oh yeah, that's easy. Oh yeah, you can finish this in 60 minutes. You don't think about, oh wait, other people actually have to read this the first time they're looking at the questions. So I mean, that input, and I think you provided a lot of clarity as well in terms of the content and all of that. So I really appreciate the time that you put into it, Kevin. And James, you were kind enough to give me equally good feedback. And look, I always appreciate, because you and I it's like we really know each other. Kevin and I used to work together. So like Kevin could, there was trust. But you and I didn't really kind of have that relationship, but you were willing to, to share anyway. Give me your thoughts about first of all, the usefulness of this certification from a manager's perspective? Now that you know what's in it and what's on there, kind of what's your perspective?
No, I think what you mentioned before, right? When you're trying to hire someone, it's really hard to measure people's soft skills. You can talk to them for half an hour, you can talk to them for an hour. You're not really going to gauge their soft skills from experience. So having kind of the 6 habits as you've got a tick box of 6 habits means you have the soft skills is nice to look at. And I was kind of using the example that if I saw a resume come across my desk, one had 6 habits, one didn't have 6 habits, I'm going to spend more attention on the one that does, just based on what I've gone through in this experience. I think it was nice to have that ability of being able to take the test myself before saying to the team, guys, you should go take it because it's worthwhile. And don't get me wrong, I took it. I was like, oh, it's going to be easy. It's only going to be a certification. I've done plenty of these before. And then I sat down and I read through question 1. I was like, I need to read through this study guide. So I was scanning through this study guide, trying to figure out what the answers were to this question. And it took the full time for sure. God forbid, the 60-minute time frame that Kevin did it in. I think the 90 minutes was definitely worthwhile. I think I finished, an hour and 20 minutes in. So it was definitely a good use of my time.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. And so, you mentioned the value to, as a manager, to when you're hiring and to see that. Is there value to giving it to your existing team as well? Is there help there?
I think so. I mean, you can't expect your team to be on your team forever. And to have that ability that they do have the 6 habits, they have it as an attribute for them moving forward. I think the idea of having it as a 4-tiered approach, that it's not just the foundations of 6 habits, it's the practitioner of 6 habits and kind of going on from there. You have to have your team at first and say, for you guys, you should have this certification. And so I think it'd be a no-brainer to give it to the team as we have it right now.
Bill, can I interject with a question? Yeah. I actually have a question for both James and Kevin. I'll ask James first since he has the floor at the moment. I'm curious to understand if going through the exam actually helped you better learn and sort of embrace or really fully or more fully digest the 6 habits and digest and embrace some of the core concepts as a result of going through the test.
I think so. I think I did it 2 years ago. I did the workshop, and I think there's one of those things where you probably only remember 20% of what you go through in those sessions, and then the rest of it you have to practice afterwards to make sure you remember the rest. So I think it was good to go through it again, and it may be a case that when you do have the foundation or the practitioner kind of certification, that you do it every year just to kind of re-cement what you learned the first time and kind of go through it every year just to say, yeah, I still know it, I've still got it, kind of thing. Otherwise, over time, it will just drop off, right? That's just human nature.
Well, and that's why I was asking. And here's the irony, guys. You may not even know this. So in the very first version of the exam that Bill created, and again, Bill is the product manager on this, there were 2 or 3 questions that I missed. So, and in all sincerity, it really even made me challenge myself and really challenge my thinking. So it's really good to hear that. I'll just bounce that question over to you, Kevin. Did you find that after you went through it, it really made you think about the 6 habits and the concepts, and you walked away and maybe the way James put it is sort of re-cemented in your mind?
That is a good way to put it. And I actually had your timing was impeccable on this pilot, because we finished it and we had QBRs last week. And it's interesting because another one of my colleagues went through the pilot program as well, and we both found ourselves talking about the 6 habits of QBR, not in the sense of, hey, what did you think about this question, but rather in context with the opportunities and the reasons we were there. So yes, absolutely. I find it resubmits it and it puts it at the top of your brain and allows you to really act on it from that standpoint.
I just, that is so satisfying to hear. It's one thing to pass an exam and get a badge. It's a whole nother conversation when you find yourself in a scenario like a QBR and you're realizing that exercise helped you have a better conversation in a QBR. That's incredibly satisfying. So fabulous. Bill, I'll turn the podium back to you, sir.
Well, and I think just to kind of add on to that and thinking about it, and I think it was Rich Polton who talked about like a group of sort of ideas. Like I think community is like I said, community is everything. I think that, you know, as we build this, as folks get certified, first of all, certification kind of brings it to the forefront. But I think that how we talk about the 6 habits and implement them and things like that, like the more folks that get involved in this, the more I think the 6 habits themselves will evolve and become more useful. And I know, Chris, even you talk about the fact that as you deliver workshops, you adjust what you talk about and how you think about it. And in having the conversations that I've had with everybody that's gone through the pilot so far, every SE situation is different. And it's always remarkable to me how different every individual SEs is experienced from, you know, and what the company's like and all that from kind of what I've had. As we build the exam, like I think about how I've implemented the 6 habits and what I've done in the roles that I've had. But there are a lot of different SE situations out there, right? And I think that more people that get involved in this, the more useful the 6 habits will become, because now we have the opportunity to talk about it, how they apply to all of kind of these different situations as well. So I think it's a good thing.
Well,
So guys,
and
yeah, go ahead.
And I'd love to take what you just said and turn it into a question again for Kevin and James, and maybe we'll go in that order. Do you guys feel as though, do you believe that the skills and the knowledge that the 6 habits certification exam tests for lack of a better term, are those transferable skills regardless of what particular industry you're working in?
I'd say yes. You know, one of the things that helps with that are the types of questions that you put into the exam. It's not just yes or no questions. It's scenario-based questions that are going to help you test what you know and not allow you just to jump to a conclusion, but to read through the scenario and think about how the book and how these soft skills apply to how you react. And that's one of the things I liked about the test.
And by the way, and James, I'm curious to hear your thought too. But by the way, Kevin, something you just said triggers a thought for me, and tell anybody out there listening, the exam's kind of tough. Like this is not a cakewalk exam, right?
Yep, absolutely.
James, what do you think? Do you also feel like this validates skills and knowledge that transfers from maybe, you know, whether you're cybersecurity, you know, BI, AI, et cetera?
100%. Yeah, I think even the scenario-based questions, you're really thinking about it in the same way, regardless of what vertical you're in, regardless of what you're trying to sell. You're still thinking about the same person, the same group of people you're delivering to. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of cross-functional. And so I went through the exam. I mean, I had to take a step back when I was taking the exam to like, this is what I would do, but actually, is that what we should be doing, kind of thing. But it was interesting when I was reading through the questions and the answers I was seeing. Some of them was like, maybe this is the right way to do it. So it was definitely good to rethink about it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great feedback. Well, guys, we don't want to keep you too long. Bill, did you have a final question for
my final question to you guys would be, what advice do you have for anybody who's thinking about taking it? I know everybody watching is like eager to jump in. What advice do you have for them?
I would say read the book before you do the exam. Don't expect to be able to just go through the exam and pass it with flying colors without re-cementing the knowledge you thought you already had. But it's well worthwhile. I think I did the exam last week, and I feel like I've attained a lot more knowledge than I have before. So 100% worth the time.
I that would be the same advice I'd give. Go back and read the book. The materials you guys provide for the study material before the test is great. It helped me, you know, get back and remember some of the things that I went through. But reading the book would definitely help you going into this exam.
Good.
That's awesome feedback, guys. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to join us. I don't do they have the official badges yet to put on LinkedIn, or that's coming?
Yeah, I'm waiting. When the show wraps, the first set of certs will go out. So
okay. Well, I can't wait to celebrate those certifications on LinkedIn, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you making the effort to be here.
And thank you guys
Absolutely.
for doing this, letting us be a part of it, and putting it all together. Thank you.
Fabulous. All right, guys, be well. We'll talk soon.
Just
All right. So, and I think there we go. So, by the way, Chris Mabry, for those of you who don't know Chris Mabry, he's pretty well recognized persona in our profession. He's now the general manager of the Pre-Sales Collective. Chimes in. Chris, thank you very much. It's very nice to have your support. Sanu, again, thank you, sir. And what's the high score? Oh, good question. I'm not sure what that Bill might know what the high score to shoot for is.
Yeah, that's like, I feel I don't want to give that out. Like it's
okay. So Rich, or Ron, once you take the exam, then you'll be on the inside, and then we can tell you what the high water mark is. Great question. So folks, we are going to spend another 20 minutes or so talking about the program. If you do have any questions at this point, please feel free to ask. If for some reason you've just joined the conversation, Bill and I have officially launched the 6 Habits certification for pre-sales professionals. It's a certification based on the 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers and the framework therein. And we're going to talk a little bit about the process now that is required to go through. But by all means, if you do have any questions, feel free to answer them. So Bill, let's talk about the process and what people can expect, and then we'll actually show a few glimpses of the website and where to go and what to expect. Before we get there, do you mind just talking through what is required to achieve the 6 Habits certified foundation, or the 6 Habits Foundation certification?
Yeah. So so first of all, you have to have gone through workshop. If you haven't gone through workshop, the good news is, Chris, is that you put the work into putting the workshop online and making it available there. So doesn't mean you have to wait for one of Chris's workshops, although highly recommend that you do that. So, doing it live is way better. But the workshop itself is online. So go through the workshop. I'm not going to say that you have to read the book. I highly recommend you should. Absolutely. Those who have read the book clearly have scored higher. So you start with that baseline knowledge. Once you've got that, you'll receive the exam. So you sign up, and we'll talk through the sign up process and how you do that in a minute. Once you do that, you'll receive an exam. Now the exam, and I'm still making a couple of tweaks to it based on feedback from the pilot participants, but it'll be available by end of the day today. There's a huge pool of questions, all categorized by each of the habits and question type and things like that. And the exam platform delivers a set number of questions at random from each of the different habits. And Chris and I have talked through kind of like what percentage of questions come from which habit and what types of questions and all of those things. But the point is that no 2 exams are the same. In fact, the questions are delivered at random and in random order. Even the answers on the multiple choice questions are delivered randomly as well. Once you've completed the exam, there is a scoring mechanism, and different questions have a different score, etc. You need to score at least 85% of the points or higher in order to pass. Once you've passed, you'll get a full report of how you answered and all of that. And then you'll schedule a follow-up session with Chris or I. We just want to talk to you a little bit about the exam, your experience with the 6 habits so far, etc. And then once that's done, you're certified. You receive from virtualbadge.io a virtual certification, which you can actually print the PDF if you want. You can, attach it to your LinkedIn profile. You can put it in your email. All of those kinds of good things. And again, it's secure and all of that. So you have to have gone through the process in order to get the badge.
Yeah, and I think the 15-minute interview, I think that's an important thing. And I'll just sort of double click on that. Yeah. The idea, and for those of you who are based here in the United States, if you've ever gone through like the TSA pre-check, interview or the global entry interview. I mean, that you can sort of think about it in that way, right? It's just what we would like to do is we would like to have at least a 15-minute conversation just to verify and validate that you are in fact a sales engineer. We would like to see people who have already been in the profession or are in the profession or have been in the profession for a year to get certified. If you have not yet been, if you are not yet a sales engineer, if you're an aspiring sales engineer and you're trying to break into pre-sales, we are working on an aspiring sales engineer certification that is similar to the 6 Habits Foundation, but we believe that to earn the 6 Habits certification, the foundation, you have to have, again, as Bill said, either been through a class or taken the online class. Of course, we would encourage you to read the book, review the study guide, pass the exam, sit for the interview, but at least have a year into the program before the badge is officially issued. And I think what we talked about is you can get a certificate that if you're not yet a sales engineer, you can get a certificate that says that you've at least attended a 6 Habits class and even passed the exam, but you don't get the badge until you've been in it for a year, I think is what we're thinking there. And why we just want this to be this certification to be a meaningful validation and verification of knowledge and skills and a little bit of experience. So with that, what I'd like to just take a quick moment, Bill, and do is tell people where to go and how to sign up if they're interested. So, actually, before we get there, I noticed that we got a question from Melanie. So, Melanie asked, "Does the certification expire?" Thank you for asking, Melanie. That's an important question. Do you have and I know we've given some thought to this, Bill. Where are we in the thinking around expiration?
For the foundation certification, it's not something, I mean, once you've taken it, you've got it, right? It's when we get into practitioner and coach and instructor, those will be renewable certifications. We'll expect you to renew your cert every year, and we'll have activities related to that, et cetera, right? But for the foundation certification, once you have it, you got it.
Okay, perfect. And so I'll repeat that just to make sure everybody gets it. So what we're rolling out today is the 6 Habits certification foundation. And once you get that certification, it does not expire. The next level is 6 Habits certified practitioner. And the practitioner is going to be a little bit more involved. In fact, there will be exercises that you have to complete and then take and have a conversation with your manager, and he or she needs to sign off on the completion of that exercise. And those will be in each of the 6 habits before you become a certified practitioner. And then once you become a certified practitioner, I think there'll be at least some sort of maybe annual process to recertify, something like that. Excellent.
Exactly.
And Rich said like an associate level before 1 year. Yeah, Rich, what we don't want is we don't want people who have never been a sales engineer to be putting a badge that says that they're 6 Habits certified. They can have a certificate that says that they've been through the class, but they're not eligible for the badge until they've been in that role for at least a year. And Ron, I appreciate your feedback on the thoughtfulness. And you're right. We want to create. We are trying to preserve, if I can use that term, the integrity and the value of a certification. To be certified, we want it to mean something. Rich asked exam retake. So we'll talk about pricing in just a moment, but with the registration, you have 2 exam, you have 2 attempts, and we are reasonably certain that most people will get it, if not the first time, definitely in the second take. So let's talk a little bit further about that. So again, if you go to the Tech Sales Advisors website, you will see this at the very we have moved this now to the very top of our website. When you click into learn more, what you will see if you click in to learn more, it's a page on the 6 Habits certification. Scroll all the way to the bottom. If you have already attended a workshop, and it can be either a workshop that I or Bill have run for you and your organization, and even if it's been through, because we've been running these workshops for about 3.5 years. So even if you went through a workshop in 2020, you've been through a workshop, and so click on the button that says, the link that says I've already attended a workshop. And what you will get is you'll get a certification, you'll get a study guide, and then access to the exam. Now, this is going to cost $249 when we roll it out full, but for the next 2.5 months or so, you can, when you get to the landing page, if you type in 6HCF only, so this is the certification, the foundation certification only, you'll get a $150 discount, and it's $99. So for $99, anybody who's been through a workshop, you can go in, basically you get the study guide, you're signing up for the exam, and take the exam. Now, if you have not attended a workshop, the full price for the workshop and the certification is $697, but in similar fashion, we are offering this for the next couple of months for a $200 discount. So for $497, and just type in 6HC launch, and for $497, you can get access to both the training program, the online training program, and access to the exam. So I hope that answers any questions about how to take advantage of this opportunity and become certified, and what the cost and what the process is. If anybody needs and we'll post this on LinkedIn again as well, but if anybody needs information about it, please feel free to reach out. And if there's any SE leaders out there, managers, and you're thinking about doing this for your team, and you want to talk about some sort of group program, please by all means reach out, and happy to talk about that as well. Bill, let's push our own pause button. Yeah. I think we've covered what we hope to cover. So some of that was, quote, the unscripted and unrehearsed part of the conversation, and some of the scripted and rehearsed part of the conversation. As you reflect on the certification, as you reflect on what we've done here and what we are bringing to the market, as we begin to wrap things up, what final thought, and before you get there, Melanie just asked, when does the online community open up and who is eligible to join it? So Melanie, I'm glad you asked that. I think we were thinking that the online community would open up once people started becoming 6 Habits certified practitioner. But Bill, I'm thinking very much. I'm thinking very much in real time. Look, if there is an interest from this community or from individuals who take and pass the certification exam and become certified, if there's an interest to create an online forum and begin maybe monthly meetings, we're more than happy to do that. So, if the demand is there, I would love that. So. Anyway, back to the question that I was leading up to, Bill. As you sort of reflect on where we are, what we've talked about today, and we'll probably wrap things up here in just a minute. What final thoughts do you have, if any?
Yeah, Chris, I appreciate it. So I had a couple. One, and I'll keep saying this as we keep moving the program forward. Like, to me, this really is about the community. I love the profession. I love the role. I haven't met an SE that I didn't like. Like, I just think this is an opportunity for us to evolve and progress further. And as I look at the future of this profession, I think technical sales it is us, right? The way that software is and any technology is being bought now is changing rapidly. And buyers want to talk to people that know what they're talking about. They want to talk to SEs. They don't want to have to talk to this person, then this person, this person, then like, oh, okay, now I get to somebody who actually who can help me out. Like, you're going to see our role take a bigger role, if you will, in technical sales. It's moving and evolving that way, and you're seeing, I think, a lot of talk about it. So that's one thing. And I think the 6 Habits forms a foundation to position you as an SE into that place where you are somebody that takes a larger role in the sales cycle. That's one. The other thing that I will say, and this is, you've been very complimentary to me, and I appreciate it. I want to be complimentary back to you because you were willing to take a chance to do this. Like, this is your business, and you've been going along, and I think you've created an amazing following. A lot of people know the 6 Habits. You've delivered a lot of workshops. This is a direction that you didn't necessarily have to go in. And I appreciate you like kind of glomming onto the idea and getting excited about it as well. And I appreciate you taking the chance, because if you hadn't decided to do that, it would just be another good idea. And I think a whole bunch of people would be missing out. So thank you for being willing to, to do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for those words, Bill. And look, I'll say to our listeners the same thing that I said to you about 3 months ago when Bill literally came to me and we'd been working on this for a while, and to be very transparent, the process stalled a little bit, and he came to me and basically put up, if I can use the term, a proposal or a recommendation on the table and said, Chris, the time is right. Let's do it. And what I said to Bill was, if not now, when? And if not you, who? And there were no other answers. So we do believe that this is the right thing for and a valuable certification for this profession. We recognize it's not the only body of knowledge or body of work. We do believe that it's a foundational body of knowledge. And that's, I think, the thing that I'm most excited about is this notion that we have literally created what we're calling the 6 Habits of Highly Effective Sales Engineers body of knowledge. And the exam is based on that, and it's going to grow over the years. So, and I think I'm inspired to say one more thing from my perspective, and that is, folks, we see ourselves as stewards of this, not owners of it. And my idea and our vision is that as people become not only certified practitioners, but then certified coaches and certified instructors for anybody interested in doing that those individuals would help continue to build and grow that 6 Habits body of knowledge and help us continue to grow this profession and drive these certifications, and that this would become something that really would be driven by and influenced by the other leaders and thought leaders in this profession. So we consider it, and I consider it, and a privilege to serve this community in that way. So
for sure.
Amen. I do have to acknowledge the person who said purchase complete. So we don't actually see who that is. So thank you very much for that. We got another comment for someone. All it says is LinkedIn user to us, so we're not exactly sure who that is. But thank you, Chris Hickey. You've been very supportive, certainly over the past year or two. Yeah. Thank you for your comment. And of course, Ron Whitson. Yeah, if you meet an SE you don't like, they are likely a misplaced seller or services person. Folks, I think that wraps up the conversation. If you're interested in 6 Habits certification, we invite you to go to Tech Sales Advice. Go to the website. You should be able to flow through easily. And if you do decide to participate, you will shortly be having an interview with Bill or myself after you complete the exam. And we look forward to growing this 6 Habits certified community.
Absolutely. And look, if you got questions, whatever.
From you, Bill.
Yeah. If you've got any questions, whatever, please feel free to, send Chris and I an email, DM us on LinkedIn. We're more than happy to talk about what's involved in all of that. And like I said, the community is everything. You guys are everything. And we look forward to serving it. So
super.
Thanks.
Thank you, Bill. Thank you for everything you've done. Folks, for those of you who stuck around for the entire conversation, thank you for being here. And for those of you who caught the recording, thank you for tuning into the recording. we're here and ready to collaborate. So we look forward to seeing you. Until next week, when we return with Tech Sales Advice. Have a good week, all. Thanks, Bill.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.